Lethargic sleep. I remembered a story I overheard in my childhood, which I want to try to restore and pass on to your court. It was, somewhere in the 70s, one uncle came to our father then, or some distant relative, as they say, the seventh water on jelly, or a good friend, I don't know for sure. I came in autumn 3 in a row to hunt. So one day during one of these visits at dinner, he told his father this story, well, we kids naturally ears on top. To be honest, I can't vouch for the authenticity, judge for yourself. About 5 years ago, my friend Kim advised me to go hunting in the village of Nicole. He painted those places for me. The taiga is almost virgin, game is a dime a dozen, and the beauty around is indescribable, you need to see with your own eyes. I caught fire, there's no urine, well, what can I tell you, you're a hunter yourself. I started collecting since June, I had to take care of the vacation, so that it was postponed to October. So autumn has come, the first night frosts have knocked a leaf off the trees, the days are dry, warm in autumn, the most hunting for grouse and grouse. I packed up, bought a train ticket and went. I got to the station, there, by bus to the district center, and from there to the village, I had to look for a ride, but they told me that a car would go to lunch, which delivers bread to the villages, but if there is a free place there, then you can get to the destination itself. I was lucky, the driver took me as a traveling companion, let's go. The village was really in the middle of nowhere, in a word, and I didn't need civilization, I was tired of the city. At the entrance to the village, I noticed that a boy, about 6 years old, was sitting on a log by the side of the road, smearing tears on his dirty face with a fist. My heart ached, such grief was written on this child's face. I asked a driver about this kid, and he told me, 2 days ago his mother was buried, who died suddenly, sat down on the sofa and fell dead, the medic came running, but it was too late. From the relatives of the boy, there was one old granny, and even that, some distant relative, so she has warmed him at home for now. And last night, our local shepherd was looking for cows that had lagged behind the herd, and he wandered into the cemetery, it's behind our village in the forest. He ran to the village with his eyes bulging, shouting with all his might that someone was screaming from the grave in the cemetery. They didn't believe him at first, he was still a drunkard and a talker, but he was so convincingly afraid that they decided to look in the morning, at night it was somehow scary. We went in the morning and didn't hear anything. And the boy went crazy, into a roar. Dig up the mother, she's alive there. And how can you dig without permission? And what can I say, the shepherd fancied something from drunkenness, they will laugh, or even worse. So they persuaded the boy that a big boss would come and allow his mother to dig up. It can be seen in the morning and is sitting, waiting. We reached the village shop, the driver began unloading bread, and I looked around to see who to ask for a post. The same boy runs up to me here and, clinging to my legs with his little hands, asks. Uncle, are you a big boss, will you dig up my mom? And he looks up at me from the bottom up. I looked Gina into those little eyes, and there was so much agony and suffering, everything turned upside down in my soul. Here the people gathered, mostly all the women, the men in the field, who started to say what. In general, I could not leave everything so easily, these little eyes caught me alive. And the people got involved, found the foreman, with the same bread truck went back to the district center, with grief in half the district police officer was persuaded to dig the grave, in short, when they returned, it was already evening. The peasants gathered and, led by the district police officer, began to excavate. The boy immediately turns around, I said to take him away, you never know what he will see, but where is there, he made such a tantrum that they gave up. When the grave was unearthed, the coffin was pulled out, the lid was knocked off, everyone present's hair stood on end, all the women roared. The woman was lying on her stomach in the coffin, when they turned her over, the following picture appeared. Her dress was all torn, her eyes were wide open, her mouth was open as if in a scream, her hands were all bitten. The commotion was terrible. It turned out later that she did not die at all, but she fell asleep in a lethargic sleep, but the local doctor could not determine, and they did not take her to the district center, kept her at home for 3 days as it should be and buried her. Apparently, she woke up the poor guy in a coffin when there was not enough air and began to call for help, but she did not receive the same help because of human stupidity and fear. She died a painful death. There was a trial there later, a criminal case was sort of initiated, but what's the point, the person can't be returned. And I left a day later, what kind of hunting is there? That's the story I remembered, and to be honest, I never forgot. That horror of the story is firmly entrenched in my childish head. I still think that cremation of the body is much more humane than being buried at a depth of 2 meters and left, and it's dark and cold there. It's creepy.